Hi, welcome to day two to our Powerhouse 2014 Summit. I had to read it. There's a lot of words, but what I do know is that we are, let me shut the door. What I do know is that we are bringing some of the most powerful women that I know who have inspired me in different ways and who continue to inspire me and who have really powerful resources to bring to you and really powerful information in this topic of authenticity and community. And before we bring in Andrea, she's hanging on the other line, just waiting to chat with everyone. I wanted to answer a few questions because some questions came in about where do we get the link for yesterday's gift. And if you look under the video, so each day is a different video and a different link. And yesterday's link will, on Suzanne's page, underneath the video, you will see a yellow bar, and as you see it in today. So today's the bar, and when Andrea talks about what she's offering to us, that's where you will be able to access that information. And so that's just a little housekeeping. But another thing that I wanted to share with you just for a few minutes before we get started, I'm really excited to bring Andrea on, is what inspired this summit and what inspired the notion to chat in this year about authenticity and community. So many years ago, and I won't go into a huge story about it, you can read a little bit about it on my website, ushastories.com, and there's a tab that says Sacred Chalice Principles. And in what happened many years ago, I think it was '08, that I had a meditative, mystical experience, and I received these principles that were very much feminine in nature and very much something that I really wasn't living. I will tell you, I'm the oldest of 5. I've always been very driven, always been career-oriented, always been about, like, I guess, I mean, I don't consider myself a type A person, but I can see how people see me that way. I think my husband would say you're definitely type A. But, you know, there's this, anyway, that's another story. But I have been really embodying and living in a more masculine way, and you know, very okay with it. And there was something that transpired when these principles came to me that opened up this part of me, opened me up to exploring what it felt for me to be a more feminine being, a woman that was more in touch with community, more in touch with being in the moment and really experiencing what was up and alive for me in the moment, and allowing myself to deconstruct and construct on a continuous basis, right? So this more like cyclical kind of person. And 2 of the principles that inspired the summit, I'm going to share with you very quickly. The first one is, and the one that has to do with authenticity, is you are here to be and express the highest form of who you are and nothing else. Love that. And, you know, I could talk for hours about what this means and about how, you know, really feeling into this principle and really living this principle is a softening process, right? A softening process and an opportunity for us to really live who we are and not be focused about, you know, so much on what the world outside puts on us, but more live from an inside to outside place, right? So that's the authenticity piece. And the one about community, which I think it's the one that we're going to be talking a little bit more about today, is connect to a sisterhood. It will strengthen you. Again, connect to a sisterhood. It will strengthen you. And this is sisterhood with a capital S. I think this is a biggie for a lot of women. It's one that's very sticky, that we're still trying to work it out and really figure out what does that mean. I mean, we all crave being with women and with other women and being in community and sharing, But, you know, if you look at the situation of women in the workplace or look at situation in communities, it's not always, we haven't really evolved in these relationships. And this principle is an opportunity for us to heal the wounds of the feminine embodied in us, the collective, and to begin to construct a new way of being. So that's all I wanted to say. And I see that we have some people in the chat room. Hi. If you have any questions at things as the conversation evolves, please feel free to pop in there. I'm definitely going to be looking at it today. I know I wasn't yesterday, but I will today. And so I want to bring my friend Andrea on. I joked and laughed when I was explaining about the speakers, because I think her and I have had these like kind of parallel lives for the past few years. And while I was on a road trip into Central America, she was touring with some boy band, which I was like, I don't even know who they are, but but she was, you know, just having the time of her life. And I was like reading her blog, and I think she was reading my blog. And I think what I loved about watching her transformation was that what I remember anyway, is that she went into this deconstruct of what society had expected her to be, and was like being so playful and having fun and having a summer of music and hanging out with her daughter, and just I felt it in my observation of her life. And I mentioned that her and I went to seminary school together, and my observation of her life was that it was a time when she just blossomed and came into her power. And now she is she started this organization called Heal My Voice, and it's where she empowers women to really kind of find their voice, heal it, and she's empowering women now through workshops, speaking, and she is a big proponent of collaboration. And I've seen this in some of her works, and actually one of the books that she has also been a part of has also been a collaboration. So, and I think where we're going to start off with Andrea is talking about community, and I want you to really tune in. You may feel sometimes some subjects people think, well, you know, it's not immediate for me. I want to focus on money, and I want to focus on like how can the big three things that people really want to know about are either money, sex, or what's the other one? What's another one that is big for people? Yeah, I mean, those are two biggies, right? And then when you start thinking about like community, it just feels so soft and like, oh, maybe that's not something I really need now. But I really invite you to spend the time with us and really tune into the conversation, really tune into her vision, because what I have found is that being in the right community can make all the difference. I mean, I'm sure you've seen people who have had great mentors, right? And the mentors or their colleagues or friends open up doors for them that they couldn't do on their own. And then there's, you know, other people who flounder and they're trying to figure out, and, you know, even though they feel like, well, this is not something I need, in fact, I think we don't give it enough value, how important community really is. So here is my friend Andrea. Hi, Andrea.
Hey, Asha. It's so great to see you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, beautiful, because I know we were having fun with technology yesterday, and today everything is in alignment. I just want to say also, for anyone who really does want to hear about sexuality, power, and money, I am going to talk a little bit about that towards the end, because that is what my free gift is a teleclass about that. So if you think community is just too soft a topic, actually it's going to lead us to some of those bigger topics also. Cool. Yeah. So it's funny that came up. The thing that I want to first share with everyone who's listening is that the power of community was something that started for me at a really young age, partly because I read a book called The Family That Nobody Wanted, and it was about a couple who adopted 20 children. And I thought that would be so fantastic to live with that many people and live, in that way. And then I lived all over the United States growing up because my dad worked for a company where he was in sales, and every promotion brought us to another part of the country. And so I was in community and out of community, in and out throughout my life. And so I was really able to see what it was like when we were surrounded by people and support, and what it was like when there was no one to be a part of, in that. So that's where I want to begin. Do you have an area you want me to go into, or I can tell you a little bit about that journey?
Well, one of the things that you said was the difference between, what did you say? The difference between toxic community
and healthy community.
Yeah,
we were
toxic
talking about those two things.
Yeah.
So to give a little bit of context, that where I say I was in community or out of community, there was a time where in my first marriage where my husband really didn't like to have people come into our home and didn't want to be a part of that. And so it was a very isolating time. My contact with people was at work, and I gave birth to 2 children and had tremendous support at work for that. People who celebrated the births of my children and who were there for me. And then there was a point where I wasn't working outside of the home. I was in a second marriage, and in that marriage we had a house that we bought specifically so that people could come over and be a part of our lives. That we bought a 3-story house with 11 rooms on 3.5 acres and had gardens for 4-H clubs, and that was, so I had these 2 times as an adult that were very different in terms of being sort of isolated and trying to find some community support, and then having everything interacting with community. I really feel like both of the principles really relate to this whole topic of connection and expressing the highest part of who we are. Because what can happen in community is that, I'll give you an example. That I was working, and so I had a community at work. And when things were happening, we were there to support each other. If someone got sick, it was common to go bring chicken soup or something to that person. If there was someone who was having a baby, that throughout the 9 months of pregnancy, supporting her at work with an extra stool or pillows or snacks from the cafeteria, and having baby showers and sharing things, and that's the brilliant part about community. And then there was a point where at that job I had an opportunity to go to another job. And I remember being so excited that I was going to have a promotion, I was going to work on another project, I was going to be paid more money. And one of the women I was closest to at work, who had been my support through the births of my children, my failing marriage, she just swooped me up in so much and helped hold me up at a time of transition. When she heard that I was going to leave and go to this other job, she got so angry with me. And that's the toxicness that can happen in community, that we become so dependent and in love with each other that the separation, the stepping into the next part of our lives, what I came to understand from her, because the way that she did it was she took me into an office, and she was someone who was 20 years older than I was. I could have been her daughter, and she told me that I was full of myself, that I was not ready to step into that job, that I thought I was better than everyone. And it really crushed my heart that that was the interaction. And luckily, I was at a place where I knew that I had so much support from other people and from moving forward that I was able to do that. And it was a really hard conversation. I didn't really have the skills to interact with her at that time of knowing what to say in that, and it did sever our relationship, which sometimes does happen. And actually, that's not necessarily a bad thing to have a
Yeah.
severed relationship in
Yeah.
community. It's when you think you have to stay and dim your light and play small in order to protect this community that has been there to support you. So it's excuse me for a minute there, I'm just turning off a ding that keeps happening. I don't know if that's coming through, but I forgot to
No,
turn off.
it's not.
Okay, I
But
forgot to
yeah,
turn off
I
that other
think
program. Mhm.
I think that I think everybody can relate to a moment like that, and it's probably a moment of loss that she was experiencing and really didn't know how
Absolutely.
to handle it.
Hmm.
And for you, wow, what a disappointment, right? To have somebody who sounded like by the age difference probably mentored you, and
Absolutely.
yeah. So and that is a huge loss. I mean, that's a huge loss for you in a transition place, and for her.
So there are a lot of things here to look at with the what happened in that situation. First of all, uh, the beauty of being so fully supported and loved, and that's the power of connecting to a sisterhood. The piece that I feel it's important for each of us to step into and to become the observers and witnesses for each other is when there's a change and we begin to feel a level of discomfort. And sometimes that discomfort, we don't know what to do with it. And that's what I feel was happening with her, that there was this loss underlying. There were also other pieces. For instance, she had a high school education. I had a bachelor's degree. And in the world that we were in, which was working at universities in epidemiology, you had to have a, a college degree in order to advance. And so
Sure.
some of her frustrations of not being able to advance without going back to college and getting the education, I know were directed at me. And that's sometimes, if you can really look at what's happening, well, why? So someone's yelling at you saying, you're not good enough to do this. Ultimately, she was feeling she wasn't good enough, that she was limited there. And here I was able to step into the new place. Um, and so there are things that happen like that, like someone has an opportunity and it brings up discomfort, and actually women can say things to each other that really are not the underlying truth of what's going on. That they know that they're uncomfortable. And so part of being in community is for us to say what we see so someone else could have witnessed that and have stepped in to help us in the interaction. So, for instance, they could have seen that the woman was feeling threatened by that, and she could have come in to. So it's like not being afraid to be a witness who then can actually step in and mediate and connect. And it's one of the opportunities that we have as women as a sisterhood is to find ways to have a voice and heal with each other and learn some new skills that can help us stay connected even when there is conflict. And you know, it's funny. I had a situation happen in my house last week. I live with 10 people, men and women. We live in a
That's
community.
wild.
I know. It's fantastic. I love it. I really want it, and all of us are committed to waking up together. So it's not just oh well, we share a space and that we share rent and whatever. It's that there is a consciousness here of things are going to get stirred up, and we want to learn things about ourselves and wake up together. So everyone who lives in the house has some level of coaching or a background in something, so that we all bring skills actually into this house. And in December, I had a conflict with one of my housemates because I moved into the garage apartment, which was a newly renovated space. So you can see the garage door behind me.
Yep.
Actually, it is my office, workspace, living space. I love it. It's really great. And she was using the space when I was out of town for her acupuncture clients. And she had not found a workspace since she moved into the house. And so she was using that space. And then I came back, and there was just this conflict of like, well, it's my bedroom, and I couldn't get into my room one day for 8 hours. And it just brought up all of these feelings. So the opportunity was I got to look at my people pleasing, no boundaries, wanting to put other people before me, things that are very common with women. And then I went into like, I can't do this, and it's like, and then there was this feeling of like, she's a bitch, or whatever. So, all those feelings start coming up. Well, what happened in my house was that two of the people, actually three people, really helped us to do some mediation. And the first thing was giving me space for a week to like land home. I'd been traveling a lot, move fully into my space, have conversation. And then they helped both of us see what was the edge of growth for us, and that's the power of being in a sisterhood, when women really step into the highest, I forget the words here. You're here to be, what's the first chalice that you
You are
mentioned?
here to be and express the highest form of who you are and nothing else. Love that.
Yes, yes. So that focus helped us both to move through it, and she very quickly found a space, a workspace that is going to expand her business exponentially. I was able to move fully into my space and have the space that I need for my work and sleep and everything else.
And something that you said, though, is the intentionality of community. And yesterday, when I was doing my segment, I talked about, the real secret, or the steps to really be in your authentic power. The first thing is the seed intention, to really be clear on what that seed intention is. And living with 10 people, you have to have, I think, a real strong sense of what are we here to do. Because if we're here to just survive together, or we're here because rent is subsidized by living with so many people, that's not enough, and not the commitment level to that intention is not as grounded as we're here to grow, and we're here to learn about ourselves and one another. And we all have skill sets to help one another out when things are sticky.
Mm-hmm. And in community, we all do have, I mean, every individual has, whether you're living with people who all happen to be coaches, or there are other things that we bring when we're in a sisterhood, whether we're living in different spaces or we're all sharing the same space. But absolutely that intention. There was something else that you said yesterday that really struck me also about taking, I forget how you said it. It was something about taking risks and doing it in smaller groups first, and then being able to go out into the world. And that's another thing that I've really found with living in community. Throughout my life, there have been things that I was expressing the highest part of me when I saw things in community that other people were not speaking, or I made choices that were not popular, and I took risks with things. So one thing is I divorced my first husband, which in my family no one gets divorced. And so that was an absolute betrayal of the family code. And I knew with every fiber of my body that that was the right choice to make for my children and for myself. I mean, I knew it was the right choice, and I will tell you, emotionally, I was crawling out the door when I finally left. So I speak from a very strong voice right now. It was a very weak, shaky voice with no support for making that choice. And then this deconstructing and constructing our lives over and over again. When I decided to homeschool my children, it was met with a lot of upset from my family at first, that they had fear that I was going to ruin my children's lives. And yet I had seen something with my oldest daughter being in middle school that led me to explore alternatives. And my youngest daughter always homeschooled. But what I started to do was to talk about it. I researched it, and then I talked about it in small groups, so that when I had my family coming to me being upset, I had some foundation under me for the risk that I was about to take, for the conversation I was about to have. And the thing is, here's the funny thing. I would say throughout my life in community, there were things that didn't fit for me that I spoke about, and that I've always had this place of find someone who can at least accept and have some level of support for my putting that voice out there in a bigger way. And for women, I was listening recently to a Marianne Williamson talk, and she was talking about, for women to really come into their own and really speak something that no one else is believing in the room, that she needs someone else standing there beside her to have that stronger voice. Now, will we always need that? I don't know. But right now, that is actually the way for women to step into a greater voice, is having a touchstone of someone there who has her back, who can at least say that maybe that she's not crazy, to feel that way. Seriously. Do you know, when I started talking about grief transformation on Facebook in 2009, because I'd lost a son and I lost a husband, and I was processing a lot of grief, I had some people who thanked me for putting a voice to it. Now, this was only in 2009. That's not that long ago, and it feels like there's a lot more conversation about it now. But I had some people who wrote to me and told me to stop whining. And I had some people who said they couldn't believe I would even talk about that publicly. But it was the voices who said, thank you. You just put voice to what I am feeling, that gave me the courage to start writing about it. And so that led me to write 70 articles in 2010, like in 2 months, about grief transformation and all the tools I'd been using. And then I hosted 44 radio shows, which you were on one of those shows, I think, during that time. Did 44 radio shows in 45 days. And it was because there was someone who gave me some encouragement and said, thank you for saying it out loud at a time when I couldn't. And that's the incredible thing with the sisterhood, is finding those small pockets of women who can believe in you and hold a space for you to have a bigger voice in the world, to create some safe spaces to take risks.
You know, and there's something that happens when you know somebody is stepping outside their comfort zone, you know that they are taking a big risk, and you witness them. When that happens, when you are a witness to that, when you observe that, you can't help but be triggered, right? I mean, sometimes it's triggered in a good way that, oh, I'm so inspired by that. And sometimes you're triggered in like, well, who does she think she is? Or you know, stop whining or whatever it is. But it really does trigger us. It really triggers something inside of us when somebody is authentic in a raw way. Don't you find that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I've come to understand from it over many years of this practice and putting my voice to things that weren't being said in my community or in my part of the world, my piece of the world, is that the things that get triggered out of fear, and that it can come at you like anger, or accusations of not being loyal to the family, to the group of friends, you know, how dare you do that, or the whole who do you think you are, and putting you down. And that underlying there's usually a level of fear or uncertainty or discomfort, or hidden desire that people have,
for
that's
sure,
unexpressed.
for sure.
You know, and then but it comes out at like, how dare you do that? You know, so have you had that? Do you have an experience with that?
Well, you know, I'm sure I do, but what I think you're leading into like hidden desire, and how you said that, you know, the sexuality piece is really involved in this. I don't know if you want to kind of see if we can transition in that topic.
Sure, absolutely. So, where do I even begin with this? Okay, so to give a little bit of background for everyone, my husband died in 2005, and for 8 years, I was finishing the raising of my daughter, my youngest daughter, who was 12 when he died. And he had a whole year of fighting for his life with cancer. So there were a lot of things that happened through that, and I went through transition after transition after transition to find the core of who I am and what I want to express in the world. Heal My Voice came out of that time, to work with women in circles, writing stories to heal something, and then reclaim their inner authority and step into greater leadership. Well, the thing that awakened in me about 2 years ago was all of a sudden I had all of this body sensation, and I didn't know what to do with it. I thought, oh, do I need to start dating? There was sort of an expectation that I was going to start actively looking for my next partner in life, possibly a husband, like what's the next point in your life? And I'm 57. So I'm at a point where I've raised my children. I have had my second marriage was a really good, powerful 17-year connection with a man, partnership, and I'm at a point where I'm free to be and go wherever I want to go and do whatever I want to in my life. And so my focus when I started Heal My Voice was, this is a culmination of my life's work, and I'm going to be going out in the world and doing this. This is what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden I had all this body sensation. And I thought, okay, what do? I don't want to go to a bar and find a guy and have drunk sex. I was clear on that. I didn't really feel like I had a lot of energy to put into dating, online dating. I've had some friends who've had great success with that, but it felt like, how do I do that while I have this baby of a business that I'm so passionate about? So I started to listen to radio shows and talk with people about it. And one of the things that I think this is the first time I'm really speaking out loud to someone other than a little recording I did last week. But I started a practice called orgasmic meditation. And it is a 15-minute practice that is a partnered practice that you can do in community. You can do it in a marriage. You know, I know people who do it monogamously. And then there are communities of people who have more than one partner who do this practice. And it is the intention of the practice is connection and both partners feeling sensation. So what I started to see through this practice, and I can tell you a little bit more about that if you'd like more details, but I'll just say the foundational pieces for me was I began to see through the stories that women were writing in Heal My Voice and the practice of orgasmic meditation and connecting with another human being is that I began to see the connection between sexuality, power, and money. You know, three big topics for women in particular. And what I saw that as women, and I'm going to just speak in general because there are exceptions from everything, of course, that we've been taught to turn down our sexuality, which even is, and I'm talking about the core essence of our passion and excitement in everything. It's like this essence of our sexuality. We've been taught to turn that down, which turns down our personal power and which turns down the flow of money in our lives. And so in the body system, it's all the lower chakras, the root, the second, the third chakra. And so what happens is that for women, we wake up our sexuality, or we wake up our spirituality and our connection to each other from the heart up. And the lower part gets turned down. And so that's where we're actually manifesting things in our physical world.
Yeah, you heard me, I'm sure, talk about that yesterday. How much, especially for people, not just women, but men in the conscious path, is that we have been, inspired, I guess, to wake up these higher centers. And now it's time to really begin to ground it, to begin to ground the spirit into the animal, if you will.
Yes, absolutely, and not deny that part of ourselves. There's a story that I tell that to talk about how we've turned down our sexuality. I want to just tell this story about how I went to a car rental place last spring, just renting a car for a weekend to go to a whatever. I shared a car with my daughter, and so I rented a car to go down to San Diego. I live in Los Angeles. And I walked into the rental place, and right away the guy started flirting with me. And he just, overtly flirting, like in a way that I was so thrown off. At first I was just giggling because I thought, I cannot believe this man is saying these things to me. He's like, oh, you look good. He said, I bet your husband is happy when he comes home at night. He's saying these things to me.
Oh,
and I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what to do with this. So I'm giggling and then quickly getting my key and going and leaving. Well, when I came to return the car, it was the same guy there. Only this time, instead of being dressed ready to go to an event, I had rolled out of bed, thrown on a pair of baggy jeans, a baggy shirt, my hair, all disheveled. I just wanted to get the car back so I wouldn't have to pay for another day. So he's looking at me smiling. He gets into the car and to look at the mileage and check things on the inside of the car. And I'm standing beside him right outside of the car. So he's sitting in the front seat of the car with the door open, and I'm standing there. And all of a sudden he looks over at me and he looks at my feet and he starts to just look at my body from foot up to ankle to knee. He stops at my genital area, licks his lips.
Oh, geez.
Starts to look at my breasts, everything. But there was this momentary flash where I could feel myself start to go into my what I would call my feminist self of how dare you ogle my body and blah blah blah, and that whole thing. I could feel a physical shutting down of my body in that moment, and I decided to do something different. And so what I did was I actually opened up my whole energy field, and I leaned back, and I thought to myself, I am a work of art. And so as he continued to look at me and, gets up to my eyes, I just said to him, so do you have a desire? And I just claimed the moment that was happening there, because really what it was a moment of connection with another human being. There was no threat to me. There was, he was looking at me like I was eye candy, I guess you would say, which was really funny considering the state of which I thought I looked, like hair and really baggy clothes and everything. And I thought, okay, just fully take it in. And he said, I would love to rub your feet. That's what he said. And so I just said, oh, well, that's interesting. And then a group of friends were actually going to go do this scavenger hunt thing down in Hollywood that coming weekend. There were 100 people who were going to go, and it was a fun way of connecting with people and then going out in the streets of Hollywood and meeting people, asking questions, and just connection. It was an evening of connection. So I gave him the information. I said, well, if you want to go, you have to go email this person and get on the list and everything else, because I thought I didn't really have an attraction to him, but it was an experience of connection. And it felt like I felt so powerful, personal power in that moment, to not let someone else's behavior shut me down, but to actually open up to it.
Yeah, well, I think that's, I don't know, you triggered me because I find it, I do find it, I do find it offensive when men, when there's this sort of objectifying of our sexuality, right? And when somebody decides that they feel powerful enough to cross, to cross some line that they weren't invited in. But what I think I love most about the story, I don't know if I would have reacted that way, but what I do love about the story is that you called the truth.
Yeah.
You said the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I don't know if I would go as far as to say he lost his objectifying power, but I almost feel like, yes, that's the right term. He lost that objectifying power and he went into a very innocent state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what happened. And so as women, this is actually a place where we can reclaim our power. So by staying open to the connection that was happening, I was able to call out the truth. And what I saw was old conditioning on his part, unexpressed desire, not knowing how to connect with me. And it's actually something that I will say in the orgasmic meditation practice that I have, that is a big piece of it. It's about connection, and it's about untangling the wires that we have about connection between men and women. It is to release the old conditioning. It is to create new pathways. And that conversation with the man changed something in me, that I was able, by reclaiming that power and just seeing that all he's doing really in this moment is looking at my body and awkwardly trying to express something to me.
Yeah, and in some ways it was a little bit passive aggressive, actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so it ended with he did not go to the event. He did email my friend,
You
and we were all like,
him.
oh, yeah, I know. So it was like, but I thought, okay, what he's looking for is connection, is what I finally got to with it, because there was an innocence that was there.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know?
which he was only able to express once you remove the layer of, you know, whatever, or the unspoken layer.
Absolutely. So yeah,
go ahead. No.
I was just going to say, so in community, this is actually one of the things that we can do, that whether we're in a sisterhood of connection, or we have women and men and children in community, is that when we can actually express the highest part of who we are, and we can speak things out, speak the truth, then there's an opportunity for something to shift. And that's what actually happened in that connection with him, was that something shifted, and it shifted in me trying a new behavior, seeing that how shut down I was starting to feel, and actually opening up, continuing the connection, taking charge and calling out what I saw, and then having an opportunity for deeper connection, which is what we really want as human beings. And so we can do that with our sisters also, is call each other out on things.
And can you say more about that connection that you've seen between the sensuality, sexuality, and the money piece? Were those the three that you mentioned?
Yes. So, okay. So, in the situation I was talking about with the guy at the car rental place, that would be a conditioning of turn down the essence of my sexuality. Because at the essence of our sexuality, it is about connection, it's about our creativity, it's about full expression of who we are. You know, all right, I'll use an example with sexuality. Have you ever had a conversation with, so I'm heterosexual, I'll just say that, but have you ever had a conversation with a woman and you were so turned on in that conversation, like every part of your body was lit up, because whatever the interaction was that was going on between you, whether you were talking about a project or a topic you were passionate about, or that passion that pulses through us is connected to our sexuality. And so when we're living in a society where there's this conditioning to turn down, I don't know, I grew up with my mother telling me to cover up my breasts, you know, like, don't choke, nope, cover up. And that actually turns down an expression of who we are. That begins to put labels on how we can express things through our body. And at the root of it, to me, is sexuality. And that sexuality is connected to our desire for connection, for creativity, for expression. And so there's so many little threads of how it gets turned down throughout our lives. Okay. And we're told to put our voice to, to shut down our voices, really. And that, to me, is this core essence of sexuality, of, sometimes, one of the things I noticed being in a monogamous relationship was that it was this tricky part where I would get really lit up by other people in a conversation, or just, you meet someone and it's just, like there's all this charge, energy between the two of you, because you are connecting as human beings, and there's something that is inspiring or waking up a part of yourself that for me, I had to learn in monogamy that it was okay to be turned on by another person, and that I didn't always have to act on whatever I would think the next step would be.
Right, because I mean, it's a sensation, and
Yes,
sensations come and go.
they do.
And that's why I think the intention piece kind of is the thing that can keep us grounded and keep us on the track of, or in the direction in which we want to move, right? So if you have an intention to be in partnership with somebody, you can have sensations arise, or a sense of connection with other human beings. And if you don't have a strong intention, it can be very confusing, I think, for people to kind of, go in that direction if you don't really have something to anchor you.
Well, and I feel, I'll just use the word turned on all the time now. I mean, because I've given myself permission to just feel everything that I feel in my body all the time, is that I have these amazing connections with people just in an exchange. I was in a coffee shop the other day, and there was, actually I've had this happen with a man and with a woman, but the other day it happened to be a man who was so attentive to the cup of coffee and where I was sitting and like all of these things, and I in that moment I thought, I am so in love with him. Like in this moment, I am so in love with him, until I moved on to the next place. It was
the next cup of coffee.
Yeah, right, the next cup of coffee or whatever the next interaction was. But it's like having my sexuality turned all the way up and being in touch with the essence of being turned on and having this aliveness in my body, is that it actually awakens love for me, for everyone. It's just that, like, I'm so in love, so passionate. It's just these intense conversations, and being willing to speak it much more quickly than just whatever I see in the room or whatever I'm feeling or whatever I'm noticing, to be able to say it, so much more quickly.
And so as I've kind of been taking notes on the things you've been saying, because it's been this kind of beautiful path, and you started off with intention and community, and this one and then you said skills, someone having her back, the courage and the triggering that happens in speaking up, the turning down of sexuality, and the turning on through the voice, basically, is what you mentioned, and the sense of connection that we want to and desire. And this one that keeps kind of like sticking out from the page is skills, because can you say, like, could you leave people with three skill sets, three strategies, three things, three intentions that they can put into place to follow this flow of being in community and being a support system and being supported by others and having the courage to speak up and opening up to these hidden gems, really, that come from these lower chakras. And I think we're all in exploration of doing this in a way that's in highest vibration, right? That is in most alignment with our soul, and in the communities that, or especially with partnerships, right? So talk to me about that, skills.
Well, there are three things that come to me. One is to know what you want. So spend time. Whether it's free-flowing journaling, spending time in quiet, going for walks by yourself, creating spaces.
Vision boards.
Vision boards.
I can spend the weekend doing that.
I know, vision boards are beautiful. I actually have bags of words that I've cut out, and sometimes I will just pull some words out of that and just ask for some guidance of what the focus is for me. But it's like, really spend time, what is it that you desire? What do you want? Because you can't really set an intention or take steps in your life or if you don't know what you want, and know that it's going to change. You know,
Yeah.
so if you just say, I don't really know what I want, well, what do you want for breakfast?
Yeah.
You know,
What do you
and
want right now?
what do you want right now in this moment?
Yeah.
The second thing is to do things to awaken the sensations in your body. And so that can be practices like exercise. A very simple technique that I've used with women is to take your hand, take, like, I'll just say your left hand, and turn the palm up. So left hand, palm up. And then take your right hand and take the index finger and just start to very gently, very lightly stroke your hand.
Can you just move your hands up a little bit?
Yeah, so if it's like, how do I do this?
Yeah. You're
Okay,
good.
so you've got the palm, and then I take my other hand, and I just very lightly start to stroke my hand. And you can do this like gently and close your eyes and notice what are the sensations in your body that you're feeling. Where do you feel things in your body? And so you can do simple things like this to start to become more aware of what sensations are in your body. Now, why would you need to know that? Well, it's actually one of the ways that our intuition connects us to knowing what it is that we want and desire in our lives. So someone invites you to go to the movies, and when you're in touch with the sensations in your body, you can feel, is it a body yes, or is it a body no?
Yeah.
So doing simple things to wake up the sensations in your body. The third
with you.
thing, okay, and then the third and final thing is to look around at who are the people in your life who are the touchstones for you right now, who you feel are going to love you no matter what, as you begin to take risks and put your voice into different places. So you start to follow your desires. So look at who the touchstones are, and then know that those touchstones will change over time. And so we can love, you can have a best friend who's been there for you through thick and thin for 20 years, and then you're about to step into something that you know is going to trigger her. Then look around and see if there's another touchstone so that you can have the courage to take the first few steps. And
Yeah.
it's not about excluding that person from your life. It's about taking care of yourself so that you can have that fullest expression of who you are.
And and what you're saying too, and you started off talking about a dependent relationship or codependent relationship that you had with your mentor or colleague.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can really own the power of our lives and own the creation that we are bringing and that we're committed to, then we can start really using our discernment, right? And saying, and not giving it all to this friend that I've had for 20 years and relying on this person and then going through the waves of disappointment or, feeling like she's not everything I needed her to be. And then some people want their spouses to be that, or have this, ideal that they should be everything. But it really allows us, I'm hearing you say is that it allows this practice of being open to whomever you're needing to be supported allows you to take back your power, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it helps us to step out. We're at a time where things are changing so much in the world, and there are structures that are falling apart. Education, government, financial. And I know from the circles of women that I have been a part of that women have simple ideas that can have powerful impact on the world. And it's important for us to have a voice, to put our voices out there. And this is one of the ways of finding the touchstone and having that a little bit of a safety as you put a bigger voice out into the world. And bigger voice, I'm talking about at your dinner table, in your community, and in the world.
Yeah. Well, Andrea, thank you so much. We're at the top of the hour, and I want you to maybe spend a couple of minutes talking to us about the offer that you have available for people joining us on the summit. And for those of you who are on the page, it's ashastories.com/Andrea, Andrea. And tell us about the offer that you have.
Well, the big topic that I am speaking out about this year is about sexuality, and I've opened the door for conversations in a variety of places. And so I have a 12 series audio, and I'm gifting the first 45-minute audio to everyone today to have some conversation about sexuality and opening up to the essence of your sexuality.
Okay, so if people are interested in having this free audio, what you need to do is please send me an email at ashastories@gmail.com, and that's A-S-T, no, that's not it. It's ASHASTORIES@gmail.com for the free audio. And if you're ready to sign up to Andrea's call, you just click on the link that's on the page where you're viewing this, and you will be taken to that. Can you tell us a little bit about the class itself? You said it's 12 sessions?
So it's 12 sessions, and I see it as waves of exploring sexuality, power, and money. And so on every session, I focus on one of those topics, sexuality or power or money, and then we go into it deeper with each wave. So we go through it 4 times. And it is about the ways that we're disconnected from sexuality, and then I have energy tools on there, have conversation. Part of it is about untangling things, so there are some things that I'm sure could be triggers, and then we do some energy clearing around that to get the root of what our true desires are around all 3 of those topics, around money. So I did the money pieces, I did a piece on asking, and there's a piece on receiving, and I brought in personal stories and actual ways of stepping into that more for everyone. And the other thing I want to say about that is that Heal My Voice there's a 9-month process for book circles that we do, and we're also stepping into working with different socioeconomic groups. And so there's a pilot project at a place called the Chalice House in Maryland, where we're working with women who are in drug recovery, who have been court ordered to be there, and who have their children with them. And this teleclass is actually, I created it as information and building a community around that conversation, and also as a fundraiser for the Chalice House project. So all the money that we, whenever someone purchases it, it's actually going to the building of this project at the Chalice House.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I am in love with the work that you're doing. I'm like you. I'm like, oh, I love.
Yeah, I know. See, it's because the essence of our sexuality is so turned on and turned up, and our passion is overflowing. This is what it looks like.
I would not have called it that. I'm going to be really honest. I would not have called it that, but, I'll go with your thing.
All right. I feel the passion. I'm always turned on when we have conversations, Asha. So it's fun. It's great. I love to see what you're doing too. And thanks so much for inviting me to be a part of it.
Absolutely. This was way more fun than I anticipated. Definitely. And so anyway, I want to just say to everybody to, if you want that free audio, so the first one, the first class that you have for free, send me an email at ashastories@gmail.com, and just on the title, see, I'm licking my lips.
See what happens? It's like all body sensations. We just go for it. Oh, just look at everything else that's going to flow into our lives today.
Just send me the email, and on the title, just put Andrea's free audio and for her class. It's on the page where you're watching this. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Andrea, for sharing your beautiful story and your beautiful process, and really, I think, really giving us some really nice and powerful invitations to awaken more fully to that, that lower chakra. I mean, it really, I think this is really, really important. I am sure that a lot of people listening to this have been on a conscious path, and they're ready. They're ready and hungry and craving to really actualize their dreams and actualize their power, and that's what we're here to do, to really ground your soul into existence and ground your soul into the life purpose that you're here to do. So thank you for watching, and in 2 hours we will be having my my friend and mentor Debbie Vermont, who she's amazing. She's amazing and very activational in her voice. I highly recommend that you take the time to be here live, and she's going to have she'll have an offer for us as well, but just listening to her is it is a transformative experience. So I recommend that you join. Thank you for being here. Thanks, Andrea.
Thanks. I can't wait. I'll be back in 2 hours as a
All
listener.
right.
I'll be
All
on
right.
the chat. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.